Good afternoon, and welcome to today's show. You are tuned in to All Things Lifestyle with Rena Laster, where all things matter in regard to your lifestyle and how you live. The purpose here is to garner a community, a tribe of people who often fall in line with that and who believe the fact that we are all called to be disciples. We are all given an assignment and we have a purpose and a plan here on this earth. And so God has a purpose and a plan for us. And with that purpose and plan comes some responsibilities. And so we say often here that you can be used for out of the box ministry, whether it be in the boardroom, in the classroom, whether it be in your kitchen, whether it be at the park, wherever you may be. God can use you to minister to other people. And then I talked about the fact recently of how when I was in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago, God just opened many doors that I never would have expected Him to open. And we talked about the things that God has called us to and made an impact on several people while we were there. God just opened the doors and we just walked in and we just did what we do and had to do it through our lifestyle. We didn't have time to go find a Bible. We didn't have time to go and pull out verses and everything because we were en route and we were traveling. But that's why the Bible says, Thy word have I hid in my heart. Because if the word is in our heart, then we don't have to worry about trying to find the Bible, how do all the things that some people find it necessary to do, because God is going to use us and He's going to use us mightily, however and whenever He sees fit. And so today I'm going to talk about the fact that God has a purpose and a plan for our life. And I'm going to talk about the power of a plan. We know that in Jeremiah 29:11, God told Jeremiah that he had a purpose and a plan for his life, plans to prosper him, to give him a hope and a future and an expected end. Well, we know that God is no respecter of person. And so that if he had that in mind for Jeremiah, then so does he for us. He has a purpose and a plan for each one of us. He did not just place us here on the earth to take up space, breathe in his air, but he has a purpose and a plan for our lives. And that gives me joy that he would trust me enough to be a part of his plan, to be a part of what he has planned here on earth. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. How is it that we can cooperate with that purpose and plan? What systems do you have in place for self-care? What systems do you have in place for manifestation of the purpose and the plan that God has for you? We know that in the world and in the business world, there are systems that are in place. And so we're going to talk about that, how what applies in the natural also applies in the spiritual. And if God has precepts and principles that apply, then we are to apply those also in our everyday lives. So, one of the first things that we need to understand, and it's one of the things that the business world operates on, is on resources. Resources. We are a resource that God is using here on earth. And so, one of the things that we have to understand, number one, is that we are a limited resource, a very limited resource, in the fact that there's just only one of us, and there's just so much that we can do, so much that we can do each and every day. And we have to be able to not burn out, not to be used up in the purpose that we are called for. Because if we don't make sure that we're going to be here, if we don't make sure that we are still available to God, if we're not here, we're not healthy, we're not putting things in place to ensure that we are going to accomplish what we are put here for, then we won't accomplish our life's purpose. And so, one of the things we have to do is we have to take care of ourselves. We are a limited resource, and if we burn out, if we get used up, and we don't have anything to give, then it's hard to accomplish our purpose. So, y'all, we got to be here. We got to stay here, and we got to be able to do the things that we are called to do. So, with us being a limited resource, then, does our system, do the things that we have in place perpetuate doubt? Do those things that we have in place perpetuate fear, resilience, peace? All of the things that are going to be necessary for us to do what we're called to do. God wants to see some intentionality in our living. He wants to see some partnership. We are in partnership with Him. He has placed us here to help Him to accomplish His purpose here on earth. When we examine the prayer, the prayer that that Jesus gave to the disciples as a model prayer, He said, "Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And so He needs us to help to make sure that His will is done on earth as it is in heaven. So, does your life have boundaries? Does your life have boundaries? You don't have to live overwhelmed and stressed. We don't have to be loaded with the cares and the weights of the world, the weight of other people's issues, because we are able to put in place systems that are going to help us with the purpose and with the plan that God has for us. So, are you afraid of your relationships, and allowing people to overstep boundaries in your life? You set boundaries, but then you're concerned that people ignore them and they don't pay attention to the boundaries that you have set. Well, systems will help you to do that. Systems will help you to make sure that your boundaries are not overstepped, will make sure that you have a purpose and the plan is in place for you to be in partnership with God. So we need systems that are going to, number one, address our schedule. Because if we're constantly crowding in things on our schedule, then we are not going to accomplish what we need to. You have people that wear business right now as a badge. You ask people, "How are you, girl? I'm so busy." You ask them, can they do this or that? "Nah, honey, my schedule is full. I don't have room for anything else." Well, that says to me that you have not put boundaries in place, because one of the things about boundaries is that you got to be able to know what to say no to, what to say yes to, and when. Now, we find out with Jesus that He had boundaries. But see, the thing about Jesus was that He knew how to withdraw. He knew how to pull away from the crowd, how to pull away from the business when it was time for Him to rejuvenate, when it was time for Him to refresh, when it was time for Him to reset and do the things that He needed to do for self-care. He would pull away. We found that He would go up into the Mount of Olives. He would go to the garden. He would go wherever He would be needed to be, and the Bible would say He pulled away. And so that's how He took care of Himself. So, yes, He had interruptions. He had things that often would get in the way of what He had planned or how He had planned it. But the thing about it is that He also knew what to do and how to put the boundaries in place. I'm looking at, for instance, when He was on His way one place, and then Mary and Martha were calling Him because Lazarus had died. He put that boundary there, and it was for God's purpose as well, because God had a purpose and a plan for that too. But what did He do? He went ahead where He was going. He went ahead and accomplished what He had set out to do. And then He came back to Lazarus. He came back to raise Lazarus from the dead. And so He was putting boundaries. He could have stopped what He was doing because people were thrown in on Him and people were calling His name and whatever. But no, He had some boundaries. He had a system. He had a way to make sure that the things that God had for Him got accomplished. And that is what we are to do. Our schedule has to allow for us to put those things in place. It has to allow for us to put boundaries. It has to allow for us to have systems and things that are going to make sure that we get what we have to do done. Then, how do you unpack? And this is important to me. How do you unpack the baggage and the backpack that the enemy has started packing your childhood with generational issues? And so, even though God has a purpose and a plan, I often use the analogy, and especially when I'm talking to young people, I use the analogy, and I have a backpack on my back, and I say, the enemy is constantly starting to pack that backpack full of stuff that we have to carry around in life, full of generational issues, full of generational curses, full of doubts and fears and low self-esteem and lack of faith and whatever else he might want to throw in that backpack. And he wants us to carry that around all through life. And so what kind of systems have you got in place to unpack that backpack, to take it off, and to put on the lightness of what Jesus has said, that he says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Now, and think about it. When children come home from school, oftentimes there's a place for the backpack where they take it off, they hang it up so they can come back and get it. During the weekend, the mother or the father will have that child clean that backpack out, get all the papers and all of the trash and all of the different things out of it that are not going to serve them any purpose when they go back to school. And so this is what will happen with our backpack that the enemy has packed for us. We got to take it off, and we got to take some of that stuff out. And systems will help you to do that. Systems will help you to have a plan for how you're going to handle that. Now, excuse me, then compromise. A lot of times we want to compromise. Well, there are points in times when a compromise and schedule may be necessary, but that's when God will tell you to do that. Otherwise, your boundaries are there to put limitations, to put a guard, to put a gate around your life so that the enemy and distractions and busyness and all those other things won't come into play and steal the things that God has called you to do, will not come and steal your fruitfulness and steal all of the plans and all the good things, the kingdom coming to earth that the enemy has for us. Psalm 139:23 tells us, search me, O God. So we want him to constantly be searching us. And this is what the plan will do, what the systems will do. Also, we're going to talk about that in a minute. It will help you to search and to know where you are, how you're doing, whether or not you are on target, whether you're on track, or whether or not you need to reevaluate, reassess whether or not your boundaries are being breached, or exactly what is going on. And so we need to ask God to do that for us, to show us how and what is going on in our lives. And part of that is evaluation, assessment, looking at what is going on. Now, we also want him to tell us where we're off track. Evaluate. Is our yay, yay? Is our nay, nay? Is our amen, amen? Is what we say actually what we mean? And is that what we're doing? When we say that we are busy, is it for the right purpose? And there is a difference, y'all, between busyness and fruitfulness. You can be busy all day long. You can be busy all year long. You can be actually busy all of your life, and not be fruitful, not have accomplished the things that God has for you to accomplish. And so this is where the systems come in. This is where the evaluation piece comes in, so that we can look and we can tell whether or not we are on task. We are challenged. Jesus will challenge us. He was confronted, for instance, when he was going about his way, and the woman with the issue of blood was pulling at him. Now, he could have healed her and gone on about his business, and nobody would have ever known. But what he was showing us was that his system was working, his way of helping to bring kingdom to earth was working, and it had to do with him being in conjunction and cooperation with God's plan. So when he healed this woman, and she was asking, "Who touched me?" He could have not said a word. He could have just healed her, let the virtue flow out of him. She could have been healed, gone on about her way, and been healthy. But it was calling for his system. He had a system. His system was to heal, to let people know at the appropriate time what he was doing and how it was getting done. So the plan for us is a reminder, God's plan for us is a reminder of God's commitment to our future and to our excess and our success, and it makes us accountable for the execution of his plan. We are accountable. And this is where the systems come in. This is where the evaluation process comes in so that we can be sure that we are accountable. The power of the plan is that God took the time to think about us, to tailor the plan for us, and to make it individual for each and every one of us. But the problem comes, and he put it according to our personality, our own way that we get things done. He tailored it, he structured it around us so that we could get the things accomplished that we're supposed to. Now, the problem comes when we want to define success apart from God's definition of success. We want to do our own timetable, we want to do our own thing instead of how God has it planned. But if God provides a vision, we got to know that He's going to provide a provision. He doesn't need us to go around and try to come up with ways to make it happen, other than with what He imparts to us and how He imparts the plan to us. Because when He gives us this plan, we often say to God, "God, give me a plan. Give me a plan. Show me how to do this." And He will do that. But we got to fall in line and make sure that we are doing it. He will reveal it. And one way is that He will provide us with knowledge, knowledge of systems, knowledge of finances, knowledge about different people and resources that He wants to reveal to us. He provides the roadmap. And the roadmap for the life's journey that we have is number one, writing the vision. Write the vision and make it plain so that he who reads it will run with it. Now, we got to read it first so that we can run with it. How can we impart a vision to someone else that we are not even attached to? We're not even clear on. So we got to write the vision, make it plain, and then your written plan will give you the roadmap as God continues to reveal it to you. It will keep you focused, and it's going to chart the course for your life and for the things that God has for you to do. He will even course correct. He will course correct and re-navigate you and everything when you get off track to put you back on track. When you get out of line and when you go down a path that he didn't tell you to go down, he will course correct. It's kind of like the navigation system that says recalibrating, recalibrating. He will recalibrate and he will get you back on task. But you got to be listening and you have to actually follow through and do what he has told you to do. So we got to be intentional about it. And we got to close the gap between the plan and the action. We got to have a plan, but also that means that we got to take action on the plan. We have to be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word. So, with God as our CEO, Chief Executive Officer, in analogy with businesses here on earth, God is our CEO. He's the head of our life. We are to become the COO, or the Chief Operational Officer, which means that we are operating instead in the place of for the CEO. We are following out the mandates. We are doing the things that the CEO has called us to do. Like the old saying that I heard once, it said that we may be the head of our life. We try to be, but we still got to let God be the neck. And the neck is what's going to turn that head and make it do what it's supposed to do. So he's always going to be in control of our head. He's always going to be in control of how we carry out our lives if we let him. If we let him. But we have to do that and make sure that we are following the plan. So the business world technique can be found useful to help us steward our lives. It's going to help us. And one way that we can do this is with what we call a SWOT analysis. This is a plan and a system that the world uses in the business world. SWOT, SWOT. That stands for system is where the person's standards and self-discipline are going to be led by wisdom, morals, foundations, and steps that are going to guide our choices. And with these steps, the SWOT analysis is going to help us evaluate what the systems are, what the foundations are that we're operating on, what our plan, are we in line with the plan? The SWOT analysis is going to help you do that. So the SWOT analysis or the values that we espouse to during our plan, during the plan execution, during the living of our life should fall in line with the purpose and plan that God has. It should fall in line with the vision and the value system that the world, that God has put on us to execute here in the world. And then the foundation of everything that you do, the foundation of everything that you do is going to be built upon your life purpose, your life purpose, and your life purpose of what? Encouragement, inspiration, and instruction. We are to direct, we are to help to navigate, we are helping lead people, we are helping to make disciples of Christ. And when we do all of this, it has to be built on the foundation of how God wants us to do it. So, for instance, Walt Disney, he lived his value of creativity, fun, and power of the imagination. That was his value. And in everything that you did, everything that you saw that he did, it fell in line with those values. His values and his system that he put in place still live today. The things that we put in place, are they still going to be living after we are no longer here? Think about it. The things that we do should outlive us. And so that's where systems come in. How you spend your time, how you spend your day, how you go about your spiritual disciplines so that you can make sure that the purpose and the plan is executed. Are you getting up, reading the Bible in the morning to fill yourself with the word? Are you making time to hear from God, to get in prayer so that you can hear him? Have a system. The system, a lot of people jump right up and they go to work. I got to get to work. I got to get to work. No, your system should allow you some time to plan your schedule so that God is in your schedule, that God is at the head of your life. You know, we often say that God is the head of my life, but we are doing everything else. But, we are putting everything else at the head of our lives. But a system is going to allow you to plan. It's going to allow you to have some consistency in what you do. Now, Martin Luther King's values, he valued freedom and equality, and he fought for equality. What is your value system? Mine is encouragement, for instance. I highly value encouragement and letting people see that they have a purpose in life, that God has a purpose for them, and then to encourage people throughout the day, wherever I may be, whether I'm at work or whether I'm in the vacation, wherever I am, you will find me being an encourager because that's one of the things that God has in his plan for my life, to encourage other people as well as to make disciples as I go along. And so the fruit of the Spirit is a value system. If we operate according to that value system, we'll get a whole lot more done. So the business world values achievement, it values challenges, it values trying to accomplish and be ahead. trying to get ahead. Those are the things that it values. What do we value? We value the fruit of the Spirit and the things that it says that we are to value. What are those things? The love, the joy, the peace, long suffering, patience, kindness, goodness, fruitfulness, gentleness, and self control. These are all values that we should put in place that will help us to set a plan. All of these things should come into play when we plan how we're going to structure our lives, how we are going to make sure that the things that God has called us to do take place. So, a system allows you, number one, to consistently have a way to document consistent processes and consistent activities. Consistent processes and consistent activities. So when we're planning our lives, when we're planning how we're going to do things, whether it be how we're going to raise our children, how we're going to go about our marriage, how we're going to operate at work, we have consistent things that we're going to operate within. How you set your schedule up, how you allow for interruptions, how you block out interruptions, how you use the internet, when you use the internet, what time you go to bed, what time you get up, how you eat, when you eat, what you don't eat. All of these things come into play, and they are a consistent way of operating so that you can pretty much tell what your outcome is going to be, how you're going to be accomplishing the things that you're set for. And so the goals that you set as part of the plan are going to determine how you implement the whole process of your system. Setting goals, how you operate, how are you going to accomplish whatever it is that you say that you're going to accomplish. Now, some systems can be automated, and there's some things that we can put in our phone, like our schedules, and people even do their Bible reading plan on their schedule. I have my walking app on my phone so that I make sure that I'm keeping my body moving. So I will set it according to my steps. I also set it when I get ready to walk. It will tell me how far I've walked. It will show me my walking trail and where I've gone. And so all of this is a system to make sure that my life is fruitful and to make sure that I'm accomplishing the things that God will have me to do. Some of the things that are systems can be delegated. You have to delegate some things at home sometimes to give you freedom. Because remember, I said you are a limited resource. And so if you delegate some things at home, like some of the chores and the cooking, and you delegate, if you're a leader, if you're a minister, you got to delegate some things. If you are an influencer or whatever you are, you have to delegate so that that can be a part of the system to make sure that you are accomplishing what you're supposed to do. We see that Jesus used systems and he delegated. He had his disciples and he said, "Go ye therefore and make disciples of all men." He had them in different parts, and you'll read in the Bible where different ones were going different places because they were fulfilling their part of the plan. So always keep the main thing and your focus on what is to be accomplished. You want the results that you accomplish to be sustainable, and you want to be fruitful. Sustainable, that means you want them to continue even after you do, because everything that we do should be about the eternity and our life after we leave here. So what we have to do is to do the SWOT analysis in closing. And what that is that we are going to analyze our S, strengths, W, weaknesses, O, opportunities, T, threats. We're going to operationalize those things so that we will know if we are on task and if we are on target. And I will talk more about the SWOT analysis in the next broadcast, where we talk and help you to evaluate what your strengths are, how to tell what your weaknesses are, your opportunities and your threats. And these are both internal, which means things that you cause, or can determine, as well as outside and external. So you are listening to All Things Lifestyle with Rena Laster. And we are here every Thursday at 5 p.m. We want you to tune in. You can tune in on the Elevation Television or Elevation TV network, Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms where you will find us, and also on the Roku channel. So go find us, follow us. You may follow us on All Things Lifestyle on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Roku. Also, follow Rena Kennedy Laster. You can type my name in your search bar on your computer, and it will bring up pretty much any place that I am on the internet, including the books that I've written. And I have a blog post that I write and several other things. So follow me and I will keep you informed, make you part of my tribe. Looking forward to hearing from you, looking forward to working together in this kingdom so that we can bring the kingdom to earth through out of the box ministry. So until next week, y'all take care, be blessed. This is once again All Things Lifestyle with Rena Kennedy Laster here on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Y'all be blessed and take care.